Welcome everyone to a Mission Control Board Masterclass. I'm Josh Nathan, I'm your moderator this morning. Mission Control is a nonprofit think tank dedicated to the advancement of the nonprofit sector. We came together a few years ago to formally share our knowledge and experiences with pressing issues in the sector in order to better serve our nonprofit community. Our master classes are an extension of our professional dialogue designed to include nonprofit leaders at the board and executive level. And dialogue is key in our master classes. We very much want to hear from you, both your questions and your ideas. And we will have a period after the formal presentation for that dialogue and that Q&A. Our members are professionals who work directly with nonprofits by providing support in a broad range of fields. We work in accounting and finance, business services, information technology and cybersecurity, law and governance, management and strategy, marketing and fundraising, and other related fields that support nonprofit services. And now let me introduce today's masterclass speaker, Claudia Zeldin. Claudia is from Growth for Good, which provides strategic planning, fundraising, government relations, marketing, and communications expertise so that organizations can focus on what they do best, their good work. Growth for Good's goal is to strengthen their clients' abilities to effectively and efficiently serve their missions. Today, Claudia is going to be speaking on fundraising through a pandemic and talk about the virtual ask and virtual events and galas. So without further ado, let me pass the mic over to Claudia and we can get started.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Claudia Zeldin, and thank you, Josh, and all the members of Mission Control who have invited me to speak today, this masterclass. Again, I have a background in strategic planning, board development, fundraising. My partner, Catherine, co-partner at Growth for Good, specializes in fundraising and virtual events and capital campaigns. I'm a longtime board member of Harlem RBI, now Dream Charter School. I'm also a family foundation trustee, so I certainly know what it feels like to be asked for money and ask for money. I also want to say that I lived through 9/11, Katrina, Sandy, and I know that life goes on for the nonprofit sector. Today we're going to be speaking about how nonprofit leaders can engage their stakeholders in fundraising, virtual events, and how to make the ask. At the beginning, we're going to talk about making a case and making a virtual ask, but the bulk of the presentation today will be spent on virtual fundraising events. We're going to end with a gala case study for Fiverr Children's Foundation, client of Growth for Goods. But I want to start just to say that it's going to be a super interactive and we hope that you will participate. There are going to be 3 quick survey polls. And the first one, just to get you started, the webinar poll, how many of you already developed a case for support post-COVID? If you could just quickly put a yes, no, that would be great. It just helps us determine how many of you are really ready to ask. Some of you may be making your case for support. It could be that you're looking to cover outstanding costs or immediate shortfalls. Maybe there's some unforeseen expenses. But I know that the majority of our clients have been looking to a case for support for significant funding opportunities. Do we have a total?
Yep, we do. Here we go. I'm going to share the results and you'll see that 72% have a case for support and 28% have not done that yet.
Okay, well, I hope that this quick overview of making the case for support will be particularly helpful for the 28 on this call, but it might also be helpful just to refresh that in order to really do successful fundraising, you really do need to have a strong case for support. So as I said, there are different types of case for support, and what you need to decide is what you're going to fund, why it's needed now. So it could be that you aren't getting paid by the government, it could be that you have hazard pay, it could be that you want to have a restart fund, but to really think about what it is that you are driving investment in from your funders is important. So talking about your case for support, I think one of the hardest things is to truly prioritize who you're going to ask and who gets that virtual face-to-face time. And I really want you to think about your donors and think about your community as donors, prospects, suspects, and public. So donors and board being somebody who's given more than twice, a prospect, someone who's given once, but this could also be a corporate institution, it could be a foundation, but somebody who's kind of new to your network that you want to convert to an ongoing donor. And then there are what we call suspects, people who, some people call them converts, but someone who you think will give, who's out there that might be a subscriber to your e-news or came as a guest to a previous event. So just thinking in those terms could be helpful. I also want to talk about when you think about segmenting not just who you ask on a virtual call or Skype or Zoom like this, but also how you think about your lists and how you target outreach for a campaign, an event invitation. One of the things that I think is super important when it comes to retention, that one-time donor, is to really think about those prospects and who could be paired with you for that ask. Paired appeals work much better. You will have a higher response rate, commitment rate if you have a Zoom call asking a donor with another person, either a board member, an honoree who introduced you, a volunteer, a staff member. I'd like to talk about the actual virtual ask. And I want to just say that before we get into the virtual ask, I want to do one more webinar pool. I want you to, if you want to ask, if you have made a virtual ask face-to-face since COVID started. Josh, can you load that?
Yep.
Again, it's a simple yes, no. Have you done it FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, something other than asking through email and e-appeals and social media?
All right, results are coming in.
Great. I'm glad that some of you have gotten past the anxiety of making a person-to-person ask. I'm actually finding that many donors are welcoming our calls and have been very responsive to scheduling.
All right, a couple more coming in, and all right, we're gonna end the poll and share the results.
Wow, okay, 63 have not. Okay, well, I really hope that this webinar helps you overcome that anxiety and that you're gonna warm up to the idea of truly making a case and asking for incremental support now. 78% of gifts to nonprofits come from individuals. It's really important that you understand that you may be focused on government, you may be focused on foundation, but the fact that 78% of gifts to nonprofits come from individuals, that includes bequests, donor advised funds, it's really important to build your confidence in making that face-to-face ask. You have to think through what opposition you have or what your reluctance is and put on your happy face. That's the cartoon here. But what I will say is that we're seeing a big shift, and we're seeing a very high response rate to those person-to-person asks. It can be anywhere from 70 to 80%, depending on how well you set up and prepare. That research is from Charity Science. And if you think about a person-to-person ask, it's actually 16 times more than direct mail. So if you're relying only on your digital or mail, you need to think more about taking a major donor approach with your donor base. I also feel like there's an anxiety around getting on the phone for some young staffers. So really talking through a plan and developing a stewardship plan is important. Ask yourself, when am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? Why am I picking this person? And why am I inviting somebody else to join me? To really coordinate and choreograph the ask. Again, I hope this is your pep talk and you'll find yourself being confident after all of this. This is our advice. If you really want to get to that 80 or more yes rate, you need to think about these calls as not just transactional asks. You need to see it as a real opportunity that has to be transformational. But you also have to understand that right now, donors are going to give you their time to meet. They understand that you're going to ask, they're going to consider it. But I would keep your call to 30 to 40 minutes. I'd be on time, and on time. Come from a place of great compassion and empathy. Ask what their experience has been. Don't make any assumptions. Maybe your donors have lost their job, or someone in their family has contracted the virus. Give them an opportunity to share and make this a personal relationship. That's what fundraising is all about. People give to people. But remember that you have to inspire quickly. Your elevator pitch needs to be down. You need to think about your case for support and get it out there quickly. And then you need to ask. You need to say, would you consider a gift of blank? Or would you consider an incremental gift of blank? Would you consider being our honorary co-chair? Would you consider being our live performer at our event? You're going to make an ask, and you need to sit back, listen, and wait for the donor to talk. You need to give them 50% of the airtime in order to have them truly engaged and to have them build a relationship. If you struggle with this, one of the best tips of advice I got was from Asking Matters, and that is to keep your water bottle on hand. Be ready to drink when you think that you have to talk. Just stop and let your donors do the talking. Be ready for all different types of responses. There's a lot of yeses. There are a lot of people that say, yes, I want to help you, but, or yes, I want to help you, but I can't right now. So be ready for everything. And when you think about those people that are hesitant, think about the questions you can ask to get them over that. If you get a maybe, is there a follow-up question? Well, could we schedule another call with someone from your company or your family? Why are you not interested in supporting us at this time? Do you have other charities that are, whose mission appeals to you more? Find out what it is about your donor that is making them commit to you or not. And in some cases, it could be that they're not comfortable giving. Maybe if you did it as a pledge, if you did it with if they could be a give and get, if they could have a co-honoree. There might be ways that they would be more comfortable giving and committing to you at this time. I can't say it enough that right now there are a lot of fundraisers out there that have not been shy. They've been extroverted, they've been responsive, they've picked up the phone, and they are the ones that are building permanent relationships out of this temporary connection. And it's a truly positive thing that's coming out of all this. And I hope that you'll feel confident and move on with this. When you think about an ask, I want you to also think about what kind of event-specific asks you could be making over the phone. Honoree, event chair, underwriter, celebrity star, maybe a media sponsor if you're a national organization. You could be asking for a high-value auction package, virtual wine tastings with $1,000 cases shipped to your home. It could be that you're asking for a video to be produced for you. Whatever you're asking for, remember that those things happen face to face. I put this photograph up here of Rise Up Robin Hood's benefit, and I assure you that Tina Fey and Barbara Streisand and Jimmy Fallon all came to this event because somebody asked them personally. They didn't volunteer themselves to Robin Hood. Somebody with a connection, someone who knows them, somebody who is able to pick up the phone and ask, secured that contribution. So again, put on your happy face, put on your boldness, and go out there, because you can't raise millions of dollars, hundreds, thousands of dollars at an event without being willing to pick up the phone and ask people to support you. And there's a real power to inviting the world to your event. This is one example. Broadening beyond the doors of the Four Seasons really does allow people to come, and your numbers are going to go up. So we're now going to segue into the bulk of the presentation, and it's all about virtual events. But before we go into virtual events, I want to also do one survey, a multiple choice survey about what kind of donor outreach or appeals have you and your organization done in the past couple of months since the pandemic? If you could just click off the ones that you've done. If you haven't done any, that's fine. If there's something else, add it to the chat box. If you've done something successful, bingo, you know, virtual tailgate, whatever you've done, we'd love to hear about it in the chat box so that everyone on this call can share and learn from each other. I know that there are many options for events. I know that some people have been, some nonprofits have been super, super creative. We've seen everything from, you know, the Giving Tuesday campaigns and a lot of social media. We've even seen planned giving appeals. So if you've done anything in the way of virtual events, please share.
Right, it looks like the polling is done. So I'm going to share the results.
Oh, I see virtual wine tastings. That's fun.
Yeah, we have virtual wine tastings and we have good old-fashioned direct mail in addition to what we've included in our poll.
I see that 7% have done a telethon, 18 virtual event. Very cool. I'd love to see more about what that other is, so please keep adding. These are some of the opportunities to inform your clients, but also make an ask. What we're finding is in the past, there was often 7 touches in between asks. That's the best practices, but now you can put your donate button in absolutely everything. So if you're hosting a fireside chat, if you're hosting a virtual conference or speaker, everybody is asking during or after their events, either through text to pledge or guiding people to your donate page on your website. What I think are like the best events are those that truly engage and inspire. If I could say to you anything that you should leave this call with is that doing something that's stagnant and doesn't actually allow for interaction might make you money, but it won't build your community as much as having an event that is truly interactive. We've seen great success with salons and virtual performances, and we've even seen classes where you can make a donation and download the class. We've seen really creative things like 5Ks that have been all-day virtual events, highly interactive. We love share campaigns, and now more than ever, building your committee and having a committee that's out there selling, and you're leveraging their network, a peer-to-peer network, has been very successful. We also find that these toolkits that are, you know, creative communications that are created to be shared have been really appreciated and leveraged. We're seeing smaller donations come in, more smaller donations, and more monthly sustainer appeals out there. So I'm going to go now into a couple of case studies. I have about 6 slides of different types of events, and I'm going to start with 2 that I thought pivoted immediately. They must have, these 2 organizations did this in I think late March, early April. They had already had galas planned, and they quickly pivoted. So Tada had an in-person gala with an art auction, and they just turned it on into an online auction. I know that the Children's Learning Center had a dance party with a VIP DJ planned. Instead, they went virtual with it and had an I Will Survive dance party where on Instagram Live, where they used their DJ and the DJ's entourage to spread the news. It was very successful for them. The United Negro College Fund and the Historically Black Colleges and Universities, I thought, did something brilliant. They thought about their corporate sponsorship and how they could retain their lead donor, Chase. And they went to Chase and they said, well, let's do our graduation, a virtual graduation together, and have it be a telethon. And Chase actually aired it live on their website. They distributed in mass to all of their clients and across all of their networks. They helped raise a lot of money for HBCU, and it was a way that they leveraged a dear partnership. We've also seen this with other virtual sports events, some conferences that involve corporations. But what's great is that these events do draw new donors. This example is the pajama program. They had to cancel their gala. They had a walk that was regional. Instead, it went national, walk in your pajamas. Some people were biking in pajamas, exercising in pajamas, whatever you were doing it in your pajamas. And all day they had events of virtual book readings, book signings. They had cooking demonstrations by celebrities, and talked about health and wellness and social emotional wellness for children, and how important a good night sleep is for a good day. Pumped out mission specific programming throughout the day, and got a lot of new donors. Different organizations, different strokes. I will just say the Teens Take Charge as a part of the Bell, Real Regional Youth Advocacy Group. They were truly distraught that the summer youth employment program was being nixed by the New York City government. So they went out with an advocacy campaign, sign our petition and expand summer youth opportunities. But they went out with a vote campaign. Everything was vote and donate, and they ended up getting a lot of support. And this is just a small regional youth-led organization. The next is, a lot of people said, oh, well, I'm in cancer research. How can I be asking for money now when there's so many hungry and homeless people? Take a different approach. Roswell Park ended up doing conferences and campaigns and speaking forums. They went out there with truly community building, storytelling, medical research, thought leadership, and they made lemonade. And it's been very successful because everything they do has a donate button in it. The next is I thought a fabulous event. It was done by the Tank. It was a live stream. They really pushed the limits on technology, and they had great creative incentives. One of the things I loved is that they did a virtual cooking demonstration. And if you registered in advance, depending on your ticket level, you got a care package with all of the ingredients to make this meal at home. If you paid up, you got meal and wine. I just thought it was really creative, and they did a family version with desserts and ingredients for desserts for families, and it was very low. The minimum donation was $30 to join, and you got to live stream their event. And for $30, the entry price, you got the recipe and the ingredient list. But if you paid more, $100, then you got all of the things shipped to you. A lot of arts organizations have been super creative like this. And I will say City Arts is another one. This is a regional group, and they did Think Globally, Act Locally. And they partnered with a Spanish food company to make tapas platters and ship it with wines from local wineries and liquor stores. So I thought that was just beautiful, and everything they did had a Spanish feel, and everything that they presented was bilingual to represent some of the communities that they serve. Whether you're doing a sing-along or you're doing, a reading party, a drive-by scavenger hunt, we've seen so many creative things. But no matter what, everything that you do needs to be peer-to-peer. And RealWorks is a client of Growth for Good, and they did a huge month-long campaign leading up to an event tonight. It is a pre-recorded event because they're filmmakers, but I will say that what was so successful is that they already reached their goal and their event hasn't even happened. And that came from peer-to-peer, just small donations coming in through friends and crowd raising. These are two great examples of telethons. If you missed them, go back, you can watch them. They're still live on National Dance Institute's, even though I'm not a huge fan of pre-recorded, as you can see, but they did something that made it feel very much like it was live. And especially the beginning, there was some humor and humanity, and throughout these two events, they stayed on mission and really made it an interesting event for those that viewed. And even after the fact, they're continuing to get eyes and following, because their their programs were so uplifting. Both of these I thought were too long. I would definitely keep your program under a half hour. You'll get a lot more views after the fact. But I thought they both gave many short examples of short speeches, short performances, and there was always the opportunity to give. Throughout national dances, it had donate and text to pledge, and it was definitely a strong call to action. The next one is Covenant House. They had a wonderful event. If you missed it, again, you can go to their website and see it. The one thing I thought that was very interesting about this is that they did promote it far in advance. There were lots of fundraising teams, individual volunteers all had their fundraising page. It was all housed on Facebook and was a Facebook Live event. They also did a beautiful thing when they were presenting these performers. They had a lot of VIP performers that sang a whole song, which is really dull to look at for 2-3 minutes to see a performer. But throughout the songs, they put on a video that was of their clients holding up signs with words about how they felt before they came to Covenant House and how they felt after Covenant House. So it said isolated, lonely, and then feeling a part of a community, cared for, respected. It was constant throughout the night, this beautiful display of mission and testimonial to their work and a reminder of who they serve throughout the night. It was not just a starstruck event and concert. So that's another great example to look at. I'm going to stop here and just say that virtual events, there are a lot of things that stay the same. About 80% stay the same as having an event face-to-face in a venue. But 20% is different, and I'm going to focus on what those things are. But what I will say is, like any in-person event that you've done in the past, whether it's a conference, a gala, a walk, raising the money, the majority of the money, 90% should come in advance. The biggest donations first. That is best practices. That stays the same. The other thing is when you think about all the time and energy you put into making your program powerful and scripting and the moment, the mission ask in the room, that power has to stay the same. The guests have to feel the power of your mission throughout your event. I will also say that the same way you have gala committees and you use your board, now more than ever, your peer-to-peer has to be supercharged. That pre-sale, that fundraising team has to be fully charged and provided with toolkits to be successful. Now, the things that really differ, I will say, is that we're seeing that the breakdown of contributions is different. So after the fact, when we have events that have been completed, we're seeing that there are more low-end donations. Some people may have attended an event for free and don't give until after the fact or that night. The contributions do increase if you have a match or a stronger call to action. But we do see the larger corporations are staying and sticking with their sponsorship, and then lots of new, smaller contributions, monthly sustainer are coming in. We also see that celebrating your honorees is a little different. It's not just talking about them the night of and why they've been honored, but really recognizing them publicly for their fundraising efforts throughout the planning, throughout the communication, especially night of, in a very different way. And we have some creative ideas about how to do that. Technology, we're all here today. This is our first Masterclass virtual presentation. Technology is changing every day, and there's so many amazing tools out there, but technology changes things, and you have to get a comfort level with what you're using. I also think you need to do much more outreach and marketing because how you get people to show up. You might have a lot of people that registered for your event, but now not as many are going to show up. So you need to do more reminders, more mobile text reminders, more tech support. So that differs. But the biggest thing that we see, again, our events team at Growth for Good sees is that this idea of building community and identity with a cause. The experience, the user experience that night of is dramatically different. You need to create the most compelling user experience in order for virtual events to work. And I will say that this model of creating interaction, yes, you have reduced costs for the venue and meal, but you do have higher costs for technology, video, donation platforms, and those are real expenses. So you still need to staff for an event, especially if it's interactive. The more staffing, the more engaging. So I'm going to give you an example of what we've been doing. It's kind of more of a beehive approach, but this user experience has proven best practices. Imagine that you're driving all of your traffic to your website, and on your website, your event is virtual, and someone logs in. They get to see a videotape of the executive director welcoming them to the event, talking about the mission, and then they go and they can explore different rooms on your website. It could be that there is the ballroom where people are interacting with the honorees. It could be sponsor rooms where people can learn more about their connection to the cause. We've seen everything from Zoom rooms for honorees fill with people wanting to just be seen, share their experience, interact. We've had merchandise shops, we've had silent auctions, live auctions, you name it, but everything is happening, and then there's a big buzz in different pages of your website, and then everyone comes together for the program, and it's short, 15 minutes. Really, it's about thanking your honoree, it's about stating your mission, it's about welcoming your community, talking about how you are surviving, and that can be pre-recorded. It could include a performance. It could include, you know, a video clip of an honoree, but everything has to be on mission. So making sure that your testimonials, making sure your stories of the work that you do are truly present and heard. We have found that this interactive model is really working. And one of the things that we love, we've been doing swag bags in advance. Some of the things that we love are this check-in in person, creating something, a FOMO. People who donate tonight will get the link to come to our after party. Some urgency, whether it is stay on for our virtual presentation. At the end, you'll see our raffle drawing live. We've been doing a lot of these pre-event boxes. Some nonprofits are sending out their journal, their print journal. That's still an earned income stream for you. Sending it in advance to everyone who registers online. Gets that for free. Others are sending fun things, photo props, t-shirts. For Real Works, we're sending popcorn. But creating an interaction is really important. And what we find is that even in a merchandise shop, to be able to say, oh, tell us what t-shirt you think we should produce for the 2021 school year, or anything that's interactive, a virtual chat, a guest book. We have a selfie room so people can take pictures and then send it to us and put it on social media. All of those interactive, fun things, put the fun in fundraising. I want to just say that the next couple of slides, there's about 6 slides, are a case study of an event that Growth for Good did for children, for Fiverr Children's Foundation. And this was an event that was usually held in a venue, about 300 people, and instead they had close to 800 people attend their virtual gala. So I'm going to just explain how their website worked and take you through it. It started with the registration, and as you can see, there was a video of Christine Coe, their executive director, welcoming everyone, and then they could go to another page and forward it to a page where tonight's program existed, so that people can see everything that's going on before, during, and after their program. And there was always a button for making a donation. This was hosted with one cause on a microsite on Fiverr's website. So they made sure that they were going to have the bandwidth to handle all of the traffic. They had a sponsor lounge that had mixed cocktails and recipes that had been submitted by staff and counselors. They had an auction, a photo booth. They had an after party. They had a room where you can meet the Fiverr community, where there were testimonials and counselors. They had a virtual video tour of their campus and slideshow. Everything brought people back to the fold. This is a community, a camp, an after-school program. They have families that attended, some for free and some paid top dollar to attend. But all of their vendors who were sponsors got to engage and be seen. They interacted in the ballroom with guests. They were a true partner in outreach. They really leveraged the corporate experience. And I think the most beautiful part was the honorees. I'll say that the honorees had their own Zoom chat rooms, and seeing campers and counselors coming into the honoree chat rooms to say thank you and the impression that they made in their lifetime. And it was so personal, and the family members of those honorees that got to share a drink with them virtually was powerful. The program was very short and sweet. It was a video pre-recorded piece that had a video clip of their honorees and a beautiful testimonial. But afterwards, people were invited to Zoom cocktail rooms and a dance party. In each of these rooms, there was a staff member or board member welcoming, chatting in the box, interacting, thanking people for coming, acknowledging them. The virtual guest book was great. The comments were then shared on social media afterwards. It really gave people a chance to have the face time that they miss. It was powerful. So yeah, again, really leveraging that Zoom room experience. Now, thanks to Fiverr, I'm going to share some really interesting wonky website stats. They were incredibly successful in drawing a large crowd, 877 people. And what was incredible to us is that the average number of rooms that people visited was 5. That means people really interacted, and the fact that we also found that 52% were viewing it on a desktop, but the other 45 were viewing it mobile. Means that you must have a mobile-friendly platform. So if your website is not mobile-friendly, you might want to rethink that. And we also found that some people were working on the auction and making bids on the auction on their phone, but interacting with people face-to-face in the ballroom and in the other rooms. So that kind of interesting. And also some other wonky research that I'm going to share with you. Our events team at Growth for Good did a lot of research about the different platforms, because the first question they ask is, what technology did you use and what do you recommend? Is there one that's better than all the others? There is no one beautiful silver bullet in this world. There's just too much technology out there, and they vary dramatically. So we did this research study, and what we found is that one cause seems to be the most compelling, and we find it easy to use, but we've also found classy great, and depending on if you're doing an auction, maybe bid good, but one cause provides you with the ability to ticket, have a microsite, do peer-to-peer and online auction. And again, if anyone on this webinar has any experience with any of these platforms that you thought was incredibly positive, we would love for you to chat about it in the chat box and let us know what you recommend. I know that BidPal or Silent Auction Pro, there are lots of, I've heard Pathable for conferences. There's lots of different software out there. The one advice I will say to you is don't reinvent the wheel. If you are comfortable using PayPal and you used it on your website and it links to your CRM, use it. If you have a staff that is using Zoom meeting virtually all the time and they understand how to go into chat rooms and moderate and engage, use it. We find that a lot of people love Instagram Live, but we've also found that for performances that people are switching to Twitch. Depending on what you're comfortable with, use it. And if you're not comfortable with it, then consider hiring somebody who will manage the technology for you. I'm going to just sum this all up, and then we're going to go to Q&A. But when you think about virtual events, I want you to overcome your anxiety and get bold. Be that responsive organization. Take a risk. If you're not comfortable with jumping into a gala, then take a small risk. Do a smaller event and try it out. But remember that guests coming together to build community is what this is all about. And people are going to want to come if you invite them because they want to celebrate and love your organization. I will also say that really celebrate your honorees, those folks in a virtual world who are really helping you get the word out, who are really donating and giving and getting, need to be acknowledged in all of your materials, the committee, the honorees, VIPs that are performing. And just remember that people love to see others, and they also love to be seen and interact. That ability to have a conversation is really important. And I hope that you'll choreograph your entire night so that people leave with that warm and fuzzy feeling of your mission. And in order to do that, we feel at Growth for Good, our team really feels like that has to be, that interaction is required. And so we're going to transition now to the Q&A, and I'm going to invite Josh back. And I'm also going to invite Jeff Ledette, who's the president and creative director at Letter 7 Brands, to help us with the Q&A. If there are any questions regarding themes, look, messaging, digital outreach, Jeff is also available for our Q&A to answer those questions. If you could put your questions in the chat box, and we will try to respond to all of them.
Right. Thank you so much, Claudia. That was fantastic. A lot of really important information there. And I've seen from the work my clients have been doing, that these things have been very successful. People are experimenting, and they're finding that their donors and their general base of support is there for them. So I just want to reiterate that it is a good time to experiment and reach out. People will be responsive. Remember, your donors, they love what you do. They're supporting you because they believe in your mission, and they will be patient and looking for ways they can help you be successful, even if times are strange or challenging. I can say that earlier in my career, right after 9/11, we saw a tremendous amount of outreach for nonprofits and the nonprofit I was associated with at the time. So your communities will feel that supporting your mission is very important. Just before we get to the Q&A, let me just put this up so that I know that one of the questions is, can we get the slides? What if we have further questions? There were some very specific questions for Claudia. This is Claudia's contact information. So take that down, see Zeldin at growthforgood.com if you want to get a hold of the slides or have a specific question for Claudia. Once again, I want to thank our mission control team, everyone involved as a volunteer. We give our time to the community. This is a way we feel we're able to reach out and share our professional experiences and ideas and give you a forum for sharing your questions and your ideas. The real power of mission control is your participation. And
I see a couple questions in here. Has anyone using a production company to manage their Zoom events so tech runs smoothly? Self-servingly, I will say that Growth for Good provides that service. So you could absolutely come to us. But there are also Zoom specialists that you can hire directly if that's the only skill that skill that you're looking for. I will say that I see folks are looking for creative ways to acknowledge sponsors. I will say that a virtual event is almost easier to acknowledge sponsors, because you could have a chyron on the bottom that is running the names of donors throughout the entire event, so they could be repeatedly acknowledged. We've been finding that not just creating a stagnant page on your website that says thank you to our sponsors, but the ability that you could start a Zoom room where your sponsors can speak and say why they are supporting your organization and feel such an attachment to your cause, where they can invite their employees to join in a conversation and feel the joy of being a sponsor of this event. Obviously, including it in all your digital communication, acknowledging them on social media. In the post-event, if you're doing a virtual journal, a digital journal, or you're doing a print journal, the ability to do that. We have had sponsors record a 1-minute video about why their organization loves why the corporate loves the nonprofit. And that can be live and clickable on your website night of. There are definitely ways that you can include your corporate sponsors a match that night to any employee that gives and attends and gives that night. It can be a specific match just for company to engage their company employees. We have had where companies have said, if you go onto the volunteer page, and there's a live chat with somebody who manages the volunteer engagement. But if you volunteer to be engaged in the organization, that they will give you that time off. So there are lots of different ways that nonprofits can leverage. For some, it's that they have a PR machine, and the PR machine can promote the event. Really leveraging your corporate sponsors' assets is important, but giving them exchange in return. And now they're getting eyes to a much larger crowd. And again, you can acknowledge them throughout your website on multiple pages now, where before you were just doing it once and in a very stagnant way. Other questions?
I've got one that I got through a text. The question is, my nonprofit hasn't hosted a virtual gala yet. Are there any differences when it comes to how they are marketed or promoted?
Oh, this is a great question for Jeff.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hi.
I'm Jeff Ledette with Letter 7. We are a full-service design, marketing, and branding firm that primarily serves nonprofits. I'm happy to answer. I think as with all events, I think you really want to start with a great theme and great copy. Due to the current situation, I think there's an opportunity to really be clever and heartfelt with your message. Due to digital fatigue from countless emails and other communications, we would definitely recommend to print invitations and send them through the mail. I think it's a great way of showing your audience how seriously you're taking the event and that you really respect the folks you're inviting. Of course, you still need to post to social media and send things digitally, but again, due to digital fatigue and the number of events that are likely to happen in the fall, we recommend that your save the dates and reminder emails and posts really stand out. We've been working with clients to create GIF animations and videos for their digital gala emails and posts, and they've gotten a lot of attention. I think finally, if you produced a print journal or not in the past, we think it's good to consider printing journals, for a virtual gala, and then mailing them at least to the sponsors afterwards. Perhaps the physical size is a bit smaller, but again, we feel it really recognizes all who sponsored and took the time to participate in your event.
Great, wonderful. I see here somebody's interested in virtual wine tastings. I have to be honest, Growth Grow to Good has not executed a virtual wine tasting, but I have attended one and it was wonderful. So, and delicious. I was mailed 4 bottles of wine and ended up with a beautiful note explaining how to put them out and what to pair them with as far as food in your home. The message was lovely, the card, everything was done perfectly. And they sent a Zoom link, which was exclusive. And what was great was that the sommelier was there and talked about why they've selected these specific wines, how they should be paired, what temperatures they should be served at, and had funny stories to share about the regions and why they sell well or why they become popular, a little bit of pop culture, so to speak, very charming. And then what was great is that they then had the floor open to having Zoom conversations, and people could go into different rooms. So if you wanted to learn more about the reds or champagne or whatever, you could stay and keep talking to the sommelier and different people in those rooms. I also felt like it was fun because the chat was very live. So people from the organization were answering questions. And throughout the entire thing, you can stay mission focused. There can always be a slideshow showing your art or your clients, and talk about your organization. But I would always say that break in the middle of the event, deliver your mission moment, 15 minutes, and then people will stay on for the sommelier to keep going. So if you start with whites and break, then do reds. And I also will say that if you can do a auction, a silent auction, you can have the silent auction be something that also keeps people staying to the end. You could do a raffle. For every person who logged on, you automatically get entered to win. So people stay on to see if they won the free wine. We've been finding that there are a lot of virtual wine tastings and liquor stores and mail order food and restaurants that are willing to ship. I got a fabulous mixer package in the mail yesterday. So I think there are lots of options. But I do think we're over, so we're going to have to end this.
Claudia, let me just ask one question that I think is on some folks' minds, certainly on mine and a number of my clients. What are you seeing in terms of the financial returns? Are people, are they spending less or more on these events? Are they, how is the ROI?
Generally, they're spending less and they're making less. But if the outreach and communications and the peer-to-peer is strong, they're also obtaining new donors at a higher rate than they would at an in-person event. So when you think of your leaky bucket scenario as fundraisers on here, you have to constantly fill your bucket with new donors. Well, this is an appealing approach, and also builds your awareness to a greater extent.
Great.
Building community.
That's terrific. I'll just remind you of some advice you gave to one of my clients, and we were talking about it yesterday, about taking the opportunity, recognizing the disruption, and taking the opportunity if you're concerned of just trying out small events, using June and July as an opportunity to try out small things with boards or collective different groups within your donor base, and see what works, and that there's an opportunity to take to host some low risk events and see what happens. If you want to speak a little bit more about that, but I found that advice, or at least my client found that advice very helpful.
I just think that starting, if you haven't done anything, starting with the town hall and really talking to your constituents and inviting your largest community, your clients, your therapists, your social workers, your staff and families to join you and have an update and know where you're going and how you're doing and what you're struggling with, and making that case for support. It builds community, provides you with a reason to outreach, test a moderated, interactive platform, and continuously have a donate directive just to test your systems. If you want to view a short video to see how that goes, and if you lose people and people don't come back, then you'll see how short you have to really keep it, because people like a short event. Again, I know we've gone over, so I have to just say that I'm always here to answer questions. My email is C Zeldin, Zeldin @growthforgood.com. And again, I just want to thank the members of Mission Control for inviting me and all of you for showing up. I really hope our advice helps you execute great events that make your organization sustainable for many, many years to come. Good luck.
Thank you, Claudia. Thanks everyone for attending.